Because this is an international effort, I've asked that our commitment be joined by contributions from our allies. Some have already provided additional troops, and we're confident that there will be further contributions in the days and weeks ahead.
In explaining his Afghan war strategy Tuesday night, President Obama called on NATO countries to add their own troops to the 30,000 Americans the United States will send.
For what's at stake is not simply a test of NATO's credibility. What's at stake is the security of our allies and the common security of the world.
But on Wednesday, reactions throughout Europe to the president's entreaties were mixed. The Times' Paris bureau chief, Steven Erlanger, is covering the story, and we spoke just a while ago.
The Afghan war has become very unpopular in Europe. There's just the sense that it's a war heading nowhere. This is what Obama was trying to talk about. As long as the Europeans feel it's a transition to something else, which is peace building, nation building, the training of Afghan police, of Afghan judiciary, then it's easier to sell to Europeans. But Europeans don't really want to fight this war. It becomes less and less clear to them that it's in their interests, and simply arguing that they're there as solidarity for the United States just isn't enough anymore.
Steve, one thing that struck me in looking at a map of Afghanistan and where the various countries' troops are placed is it's impossible not to realize that American troops are really, by and large, in charge of the entire Pakistan border. Talk a little bit about whether you agree that that's the case and why it's been set up that way.
Well, it is the case. Partly it's set up that way because the Americans want it that way. I mean, the Americans want to do the heavy fighting, and they don't trust the others to really do it. Also, the way ISAF, which was the sort of NATO force, was originally set up, each country was in charge of a certain aspect. They're trying to redo that now so that there's overall control. But each country has little distinctions, conditions on how its forces can be used. So that gets in the way of an overall commander using them the way he or she wants. But, some people are really doing the fighting. I mean, Canada's been fighting, the Dutch have been fighting, the French have been fighting. There's been a lot of criticism of the Germans because they're up in the north, and they've been doing more teaching and assisting than fighting. But even the North now has gotten shakier. But certainly in the South and, as you say, the West, that's where the heavy work is.
Steve, my last question for you. What's the reaction more generally in Europe toward the president's speech on Tuesday night, just among people, forgetting for a moment about sort of military and political leaders?
Well, people generally are glad to hear that the United States is thinking about leaving. I mean, no one wants to cut and run, but there is a feeling that, in the past, it was endless and open-ended and to no particular end. And people wondered, could we leave when all Afghans had bank accounts? So to at least begin to define more clearly what the real cause and effect of the war will be. In other words, if you like, Afghanization. It provides an endpoint, and I think makes people feel better that we're actually there to help the Afghans build the ability to control their own country and provide their own security. That's what people want to hear.